say you weren't invited. I post a lot over there. If you want extra content but you don't want to leave this platform, you can join YouTube memberships by clicking join below or going to my channel page, clicking the join button. That is content that's exclusive to YouTube. Go back and forth between the Kindle and physical books, and we will start with the one that I've kind of taken a chunk out of already. I think I'm at page 75-ish. And that is a book that I was saving for summer and saving for the heat. Parable of the Sower. Sower. I think that's how you say it. Parable of the Sower. By Octavia E. Butler. And this book, I've read one other by Octavia E. Butler that I really loved, and that was Kindred. Now this one is part of a duology. Essentially, it is about a girl named Lauren. She's 15, living in a dystopian, collapsing America. This book was written in the 70s, I think, and it takes place in the 2020s. And all of these communities, everybody's living in shambles, but the neighborhoods are gated off. Kind of, you live behind the wall of your own community. Outside of those walls, things are very dangerous. So you just mingle with the people that are in your own little subdivision, your own little neighborhood. Those are your people. Now her dad is a preacher. And her mom is deceased, and she's got a couple half-brothers, her brothers. She is starting to feel pulled away from her religion, or her dad's religion, because it's not making sense to her when she goes out into the world, because they do go venture out beyond the walls occasionally for different things. And she sees how people are living, and she's got a hyper empathy, and she sees the pain these people are in. But her dad's preaching is kind of teaching to not have empathy, and that there's something wrong with her for having it. So she's starting to pull away secretly from her father's religion. That's where I'm at now, and it's really good. Her writing is always just impeccable. I was in a reading slump, and I did this experiment where I was going to read 25 pages of all my possibilities, all my physical possibilities, and they were all really good. So I am hopeful that I'm completely pulled out of that reading slump, that reading funk. Now, I'm going to tell you about one that's on my Kindle. To Cage a Wild Bird by Brooke Fast. Get in, get out, don't fall in love. This one is about a young woman who, this is again a dystopian. I don't know if there's magic or not in this. I know it is dystopian. There's a prison system that is brutal, and the female main character's brother ends up in some trouble, and he has to go into that prison system. So now the female main character, she'll do anything to get her brother out, including getting herself into trouble, so that she has to go into that prison system and save her brother. But there's also a romance element to this too. So I'm not sure how I'll feel about that, because I don't dig romance. There's some really loud vehicle out there. How dare they? Anyways, pile of possibilities. We'll see. We'll get into it. I'll give it 50 pages and decide if I want to continue or not, because this is not one of them that I read the first 25 pages of just to see. Have butter. I bought this brand new at Barnes & Noble, and then I never touched it for a long time. But I was also thinking that I wanted to read this one in the summer, so I pulled it out. Butter by Asako Yuzuki. And this is about a journalist who has been writing is about these different rungs in this dystopian future where they're trying to pave the way to live on other planets and stuff. That's what I'm gathering. There's different rungs, so it's a pyramid kind of thing where the golds are at the top and then there's all these other colors and the reds are at the bottom. And the reds are enslaved to go harvest this stuff called helium-3, and they have to go work in these unbearable conditions to get helium-3, and when they get some, then they get their necessities. If they don't get the helium-3, they get the very flour. They don't get any dental care, they don't get any soap and stuff like that. So they're essentially, the higher rungs are using these red level slaves to do all of this labor. And you get a feeling that it's all under they're kind of brainwashing them. Oh, you guys are the pioneers. You guys are going to make the whole world livable. You guys are the heroes. But they're definitely just using them. I enjoyed the first 25 pages. Like I said, I usually have an issue with if it's too sci-fi-y. So we'll see, but I'm going to continue it. One heart-pounding ride. That is Red Rising by Pierce Brown. If I like it, I'll go on to the next one. I know once I get into 100 pages, I'll be attached. We will be joined at the hip. It's just getting those first 100 pages in. Fantasy and sci-fi, you really got to get into the world before you have any idea what's going on, you know? And then on the Kindle, I have The Reformatory. Which is a paranormal book that takes place in the 1950s in Florida, I believe. Yeah, Gracetown, Florida. June 1950, 12-year-old Robbie Stevens Jr. is sentenced to 6 months at the Gracetown School for Boys, a reformatory for kicking the son of the largest landowner in town in defense of his oldest sister, Gloria. So begins Robbie's journey further into the terrors of the Jim Crow South and the very real horror of the school they call the reformatory. Robbie has a talent for seeing ghosts, or haints. But what was once a comfort to him after the loss of his mother has become a window to the truth of what happened at the reformatory. Boys are forced to work to remediate their so-called crimes. They've gone missing, but the haints Robbie sees hint at worse things. Through his friends Redbone and Blue, Robbie is learning not just the rules but how to survive. Meanwhile, Gloria is rallying every family member in connection in Florida to find a way to get Robbie out before it's too late. It is a haunting work of historical fiction written as only America Book Award-winning author Tennant Reeve could, by piecing together the life of the relative her family never spoke of and bringing his tragedy to those of so many others at that infamous Dozier School for Boys to the light in this riveting novel. So this is similar to what happened to a relative of the author. These schools that they were housing Native Americans and, young black boys saying, you did this, so we're going to use you. These stories terrify me. And with the privatization of prisons, I mean, this can all happen again. A couple more from the physical book pile. I've got White Ivy. I used to see this all the time at Barnes & Noble, and I always pick it up and I always pass it by. But I found it for cheap at a used book sale. White Ivy, Susie Yang. White Ivy by Susie Yang, and this is the Book of the Month edition. This essentially is about a young girl who is living with her grandma in China when the story first opens. But her parents are over here in the States, and they told the grandma as soon as they got established over here that they would send for Ivy. Meanwhile, they're over here having another kid. Anyway, when she turns about 5 or so, they're ready for her, so grandma puts her on a plane, and she gets over here to her parents, who very good. Plus, his mom's single, so he can't be a very good kid. She's like, we live here too. Anyway, they starts to send her to private school. After that, Grandma also comes over from China eventually. Now, when Grandma gets here, she starts teaching Ivy how to steal. And Ivy becomes proficient in the art of thievery. And that's kind of where I'm at now. But I think this is supposed to be, I don't know, maybe somebody compared it to something along the lines of A Talented Mr. Ripley, something where she maybe has a fake, does she steal a whole identity? I'm not sure where it goes from there. But that is where I'm at now. And then we've got Shuggie Bain. Now this one I'm not sure that I'm going to read this month, but I kind of got to get to it because I've been putting it off for so long. And it is a 2020 Booker Prize winner. It's kind of thick too. It is about a boy growing up in Glasgow with an alcoholic mother. And I'm scared of it because I think it's going to break my heart. It opens up with him as a teenager, but you're going to go back to his childhood, but it opens up him as a teenager completely taking care of himself and still thinking about his mom, but he's out on his own at 16. And then it goes back to his early childhood days and his mom kind of drinking in the kitchen and playing cards with her friends, and his dad, who he's named after, being a total shit. So I know this is going to be a tearjerker. I've heard it, I can just tell, and I have a history of alcoholism, so I think that's going to tug at me even more. I'm keeping it in the pile. This might be one that I take a year to read. I don't know. And the last physical book that I have on the list is The Dance Tree. And this has summer vibes because it is set in a sweltering summer of 1518. And this is based on a true story. Because long, long ago, I guess in 1518, this whole town started dancing until they dropped dead. And there's some theories as to why this happened. And this is just a fictionalized version built on what really did happen. 1518, the height of summer, a lone woman begins to dance in the city square. She dances for days without rest, and when hundreds of other women join her, the city council declares a state of emergency. At the city's boundary, pregnant Lisbeth, that's the female main character, lives with her husband and mother-in-law tending to the bees that are the family's livelihood. Her quiet life is upended by the return of her sister-in-law, Neith, from 7 years in the mountains where she was paying penance for a crime that nobody will name, so essentially mountain jail. As the city buckles under the beat of 1,000 feet, Lisbeth becomes caught in a dangerous web of deceit and clandestine passion. I don't know, does she fall in love with Neith? There's another character that lives around them called Ida. I don't know. I feel like she's gonna get a crush on somebody other than her husband from the first 25 pages that I read. That's just my hunch. Her husband's not really paying attention to her anyways, so she can do what she wants. Alright. Then I have Ring Shout. Ring Shout. I think this is a pretty short book. I'm mostly home, so I want to start tackling my physical TBR. However, this is a short one, and I need to have one or two on the Kindle going at all times. So this one, in America, demons wear white hoods. In 1915, the birth of the nation cast a spell across America, swelling the clan's ranks and drinking deep from the darkest thoughts of the white folk. All across the nation they riot, spreading fear and violence among the vulnerable. They plan to bring hell to earth, but even the can die. Standing in their way is Maurice Boudreaux and her fellow resistance fighters, a foul-mouthed sharpshooter and a Harlem hellfighter. Armed with blade, bullet, is my July TBR. Let me know what your